I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second it.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And that will take us to 6.1. City attorney
Engineer.
or city engineer.
He's probably smart enough to do both.
Did I get promoted or
Yeah.
demoted? I don't know.
You'd get more pay.
Yeah, then, yeah.
So if you want to start out with 6.1A, Dave.
Sure, so it was probably a couple meetings ago now where we had some property owners that raised a concern about drainage in their backyard along hidden trails. So Kyle and I did go out, take a look at that.
They were gonna be here, so I don't know if we wanna, he just, sorry, I just,
And that's fine.
Yeah, they were notified.
they were, he has somebody else he
Oh.
emailed me, so he was gonna be a few minutes late. So
Yeah.
I don't know if
And
we
that's
wanna
fine.
do the
We
other
can
two.
circle back to that.
Yeah, we'll start with the other ones
Okay,
on it.
sorry.
We'll come back to that one.
Well, let's move on to street maintenance then. So Kyle and I also spent some time just driving around, taking a look at the conditions of the streets, and specifically we started with the idea of whether or not that we should have a seal coat project this year, to kind of keep up on our preventative maintenance. And as we took a look at the conditions of the road, I think we were both in agreement that generally speaking, we think that we're pretty well caught up on seal coats, that those are holding up pretty well for right now. So it would be our recommendation for this year that you spend your maintenance dollars on crack sealing of the streets, and then also there's some areas around structures, both storm sewer and sanitary sewer, where the structures, the pavement's kind of settled around them, and we have some bumps or cracks in those areas, and that you spend your money, your maintenance dollars on repairs such as that, along with the crack sealing, and that would be your project for this year. And then we would reevaluate the roads again next year for whether or not some would require a seal coat. In addition to that, as we looked around, we do have some of the streets in town that were developed, were kind of those initial developments, in particular Coldwater Crossing. First couple of editions of that, where the streets are still, the pavement integrity is still in good shape, but it's starting to get some cracks in it, some dips where you're starting to lose the ride quality a little bit. An area where around the structures, if you drive that area very often, you know that the structures are sitting up higher than the road, and so you get some bumps that way. So, you know, those initial streets are getting to be where they're close to 20 years old, or they'll be approaching that here in the near future. So that might be something to look at, whether or not a mill and overlay would be appropriate for those roads here in the future, again, where the entire pavement section is still in good shape, but taking that wearing course off, putting a new one on, help seal up the road, address those ride quality issues, and extend the overall life of the roadway that way. So, with all that said, one of the things that we talked about with Rick and Kyle is maybe as part of your budgeting process, we do kind of a simplistic pavement management plan that kind of takes a whole look at your streets, what we think that it would be due for seal coating over the next 3 to 5 years, roads that we think are going to be getting to that age where maybe a mill and overlay would be the most effective thing to extend their life, continue with the crack sealing, patching as needed, but give you a little bit more of a longer view planning look at what you should be considering for your roads over the next 2 years at least.
Certainly worthwhile to start. We're getting to that point now. We're going to start.
Yeah, you get to the
repairs.
Yep, that and again, the mill and overlay is certainly more expensive than the seal coating, but you know, the farther you can preserve those roads into the future without having to do a full reconstruction.
Yeah.
You know, the utilities are new; they should be good for a number of years yet. So really, it's just when you start to lose the ride quality, when you start getting those cracks or they start breaking down a little bit more, where you have to do some patching around those, that would be a good time maybe to preserve that pavement.
You know how much we budgeted for?
I do 45,000
for
for seal coating activities, so that's a pretty good adequate budget to work with.
Yeah, and I think that should be more than enough for your crack sealing, the patching that you would need to do.
I think this year, we only had like 20,000, that other 20,000 equipment, and that kind of thing, out of that capital outlay.
Could very well be.
Yeah.
Depends which
So-
budget does.
But last year we budgeted a good amount too, for seal coating, those never got, so that rolls in over
So then, if I could kind of extend that conversation also, here in the last couple of weeks, had a discussion with MnDOT, and I forwarded Rick some information on that discussion. I'm not sure if that's been shared with you yet, but you'll be getting some more on that. But MnDOT is, looking at a 2020 project to come through town from First Street up to the roundabout. And they need to, address ADA issues along the corridor. So, the, current facilities, sidewalk lifts, pedestrian ramps, things like that aren't up to current ADA codes, they'd be coming in, making some, improvements to that, and then, is gonna be seeking input to the city as to when they're coming through town with this project. Are there any other improvements that you'd like to be making to the roadway? We've talked about, a trail or a sidewalk between Fifth Street and up to the roundabout, that's always been a gap in our system, that to potentially look at. We had discussions about pedestrian crossings. Right now we have the one crosswalk, I think it's a Fourth Street, if I'm thinking of it correctly, across Highway 25, and whether or not if there's some improvements that we can made to that, or there's some bump outs or traffic calming things that should be considered to help make that crossing, a little bit more safe and desirable than maybe it is now. When we redid the highway back in, was it 2007, 2006? At that time, if for those of you who can remember, we didn't have sidewalk, or there were some sidewalks out there, there was no curb and gutter. We had wood light poles that were basically out in the pavement, and so that project kind of put a uniform urban section through the downtown and fixed up the sidewalks, but we were also kind of working with some limits as far as the right-of-way widths and what we were trying to preserve for parking lane widths, and roadway width, that if you can visualize walking along the sidewalk, some of those places where the street lights are, the sidewalk gets pinched down to a fairly narrow area, they have to go in, make some adjustments to make those a uniform width. So, we'll get you some information kind of as to what we've gotten from MnDOT, some questions that they're starting to ask and things for you to consider, but I guess two things with that, again, back to kind of what you should be thinking about for planning for streets over the next few years. 2020, MnDOT will have that project. Presumably there would be some sort of a local share, assuming that there's potentially some improvements that you might look at doing at the same time. We've at least had discussions in the past whether or not the urban section should be extended from Fifth Street up to the roundabout, or is the rural section with the ditches okay the way it is. It stops at First Street, so the rural section to the south right now they're not planning on making any improvements there. But we'll get you some information so you can at least start thinking through that.
Good, okay, that sounds good. So on the street, if we did decide to postpone the seal coating, is that something that next step would be starting to get proposals for everything that needs to get done?
Yeah, as far as any repairs and, corrective,
Okay.
that'd be the next step this year.
Seems to me that's probably the direction we should go, if you guys have reviewed it and feel that seal coating, certainly is still holding up like it should.
Yeah, I don't, unless Kyle disagrees,
No,
I think
no,
we were in agreement that
Yep.
we think we're caught up for that for now.
Okay, good, yeah.
Where you see the biggest wear and tear on the seal coating is some areas in cul-de-sacs or at the end of driveways where you can kind of see where the turning movements have kind of worn away the seal coating, but generally speaking, it's all there, so, I think we can get at least another year or two out of most of it
Good, okay.
before we consider doing that again.
Let's move forward then and get some quotes and see what it takes to repair some of that. Okay. Well, can we move back up to the 6.1.8?
Sure.
That's all right.
So, yeah, so we had, looked at the drainage issues that were brought, to our attention, along Hidden Trail there, specifically 1515 and 1519 Hidden Trail, and so Kyle and I went out that following week and took a look at, the situation. We had looked at that, years ago, but kind of, took a fresh look at that, and, again, in that area where right up against the, west edge of the Hidden Creek development there. There's a line of trees and some undeveloped property to the west, and so the development matched up against the existing conditions on that west edge. The way the development's set up now is that there's kind of a deep swale that runs through those backyards with some backyard storm sewer that, goes out to Hidden Trail. And what's happened is, along a few of those backyards, the grades are pretty flat and they just don't drain very well. So you can see where they're holding water, that area stays generally soggy, and so that was a concern of the property owners. So we went out and took a look at it, and looked at it for, kind of with a couple things in mind. One was, you know, the concern that you have this deep swale there kind of, eats up some of the usability of the backyards, and is there anything that could be done to improve that? What we concluded is that if you're really serious about trying to do something about that, what you'd have to do is extend some storm sewer, bring in some fill in those backyards, basically create another low spot, on the south, property line of, I'm trying to think, which is the south house, 1515 or 1519? Okay, 1519, along that south property line, create another low spot, and then you could do some filling and maybe take out, some of the deepness of those swales. The issue with that gets to be it's a fairly extensive project. It's pretty expensive if we're gonna consider going in, putting in storm sewer and bringing in that fill, the restoration that will be associated with it, regardless of whose project that would be. So, with the idea that was probably, more of an extensive project than anybody was, necessarily considering initially, we looked at it more from the standpoint of then the nuisance issue that exists is the sogginess in those backyards, those flat grades, what could be done with that. Two things going on there. One is that the existing city storm sewer with that catch basin in the backyard, right now that needed some maintenance. You can see where the material, around the manholes has been, able to get into the structure, that's not completely sealed up, so you have some settlement around there. So there is definitely some work that, Kyle identified that we need to go in there, do some work on that manhole, get that sealed back up, some restoration along with that. While that work was being done, what we thought, from a city standpoint that could be done would be to make a connection point that if the property owners wanted to then have a project where they put in some drain tile to help dry up their backyards, the city would give them a spot to connect that, so that, the city's portion of a potential project then would be, the engineering associated with trying to come up with some solutions like we're talking about tonight, some work with the structure itself and providing that connection point, so that if the property owners then, basically wanted to take on a tile job, tie into our structure to address that would be, something that, an agreement could be drawn up to help out with that. So, Kyle, anything that I'm missing as far as?
That would allow for both properties to tie in?
Well, it would, what I'm visualizing is, one line that would run across both properties.
Okay.
The existing structure's on the north property line of 1515, and so kind of running across the backyard, 1519 and 1515, tying it into that structure. The idea that would be some sort of a, perforated pipe that would be allowed to take that moisture out of the ground, with a, rock backfill again, try to, with the flatness of the grade, when it rains, you're probably still gonna get some water that, when it builds up, it's gonna run to that structure, but afterwards, you might still have some wet spots. But the idea of the tile would be then, it would dry up in a shorter time period than it does right now, and really, right now, it really doesn't dry up at all.
Okay.
Do any of these two fixes, would they affect any of the other properties south of 1519?
No.
Okay.
Go ahead, if you don't mind.
I just have a few concerns about it.
If you could turn on the microphone, please, push the button. And then just for the record, if you could say your name and address.
Dan Pohl, 1515 Hidden Trail, Mayor. The couple concerns I have is I don't think that the pipe was initially installed correctly. You can see where the landscape fabric was not put completely around it, and there's actually holes starting to burrow on each end of it. The top section of the catch basin is not even sitting directly on top of the bottom one. What that's caused is erosion and loss of topsoil in our yards. So when talking about this, is that all gonna be put back to grade if they have to, since, I guess, when was the last time this was inspected?
You know, do we inspect them?
No,
I mean, I know in my line of work, I work for Carver County Public Works, we inspect them on a regular basis. You know, and it's documented for probably this very reason.
We can check in as our policy, if we have a policy. I don't think we have a policy to
But
inspect them.
that's exactly the maintenance work that we were talking about.
Right.
To go in there, that has to be sealed up, because you're right, right now that sediment's allowed to infiltrate that structure, you're getting that sediment, those little sinkholes around there. So that's what Kyle and I talked about, that structure needs to be sealed up, and that restoration around there to bring it back up to grade and get it restored.
Right, and, I mean, if that's gonna cure this issue, is a tile line even needed, or is this original plan of design that failed?
Well, I would say that the solution to the sogginess in the backyards is probably
Right.
gonna involve a tile line that would be something that you and your neighbor would install if you wanted to get rid of the sogginess.
I guess my understanding is of why. That this issue doesn't happen in the future if the original grade was acting as designed and working. Why is it our issue to tie into into the city's catch basin?
When the development was mass graded, the infrastructure was put in, everything was set to grade properly. It was
Okay.
when the individual home constructions came in and altered the grades as they went, where the issues were created. So, I would say if you wanna call your builder and ask him why you have a
I guess
flat yard,
it's
you
more
certainly
that
could do that, but
I guess for me it's more that the catch basin failed, whether it was from whoever it was installed by, 'cause it doesn't even flow in the top of the thing. I mean, the water or the dirt's that far down from the top of that thing.
I don't think that is not the cause of your issue.
Right, but there's still a loss of topsoil and erosion due to
Which
that.
again,
Right.
it's been identified that you're right, that needs to be maintained and restored.
Okay.
So
And
are you thinking, or maybe we're hoping that once we restore what we need to do around that basin and get it back how it should, are you thinking that'll take care of the problem? We don't, I mean, obviously that's what you're hoping, correct?
it would be a trial by fire.
Okay.
You know,
Mhm.
but yeah, if, to
Well, I
guarantee
think
it.
that's certainly the first step.
Right.
Is to get that restored. I think while that work's being done, while the structure's it has been exposed, that would be an appropriate time to get a connection point put in.
Right.
If that makes the situation better, then, good for everyone. If it doesn't, then at least there's a connection point that's already established for you to tie on to if that's something you think is necessary.
Right. Yeah, no, as long as the erosion would be taken care of and that would be seeded back in appropriately, that would be good, I guess.
I do, I think that's,
Okay.
that has to happen regardless.
Yep, okay. So it seems we need to move forward sooner than later on that.
Dave, and that really doesn't constitute some type of an agreement between the parties. This is simply us upgrading, maintaining our infrastructure.
Maintaining it within the easement you already
Yes.
have.
Yeah.
What is the easement there?
Just
Just because it's not on the edge of the property, on the one edge of the property, I guess.
Yeah, if I'm visualizing it correctly, you should have 10 feet on either side of that side lot line. So there should be a total of 20 feet,
Okay.
that runs down the lot line. 10 on your side, 10 on your neighbor's side.
And because the 10 on the neighbor to the north of me, or that yard has had zero issues.
Mhm.
I mean, you can tell it's starting to bore alongside of it, but zero issues with wetness, where ours is, besides this last rain, it was still wet up until
Right,
then.
and what it looks like is that it would be 1519 then, is your neighbor to the south.
Right,
When they constructed that as a walkout, that grade just, that kind of established that flow line for everybody. And, 'cause if you look then farther to the south, that yard sits up fairly high. So
Right.
originally, there was enough grade, across from, the south to the north of that structure. When that middle house got established, that kinda set the grade for everybody, and just appears that it's a little flatter than it needs to be to completely drain, and get rid of that sogginess.
Okay.
Okay. So the next steps is we'll start doing what we need to do on the
Yeah,
catch basin.
I think that's what you wanna do is, plan to get the work done and get it done, and
Yeah.
the two property owners can decide whether or not they ultimately wanna hook up, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe this will help considerably, but
But I agree.
it needs to be improved, you know, even
Yeah.
if we didn't have this situation off the easement, because it's gonna fail miserably at some point in time.
Yeah, and ultimately, it's not good for the system as a whole when you're getting that material in there, 'cause that's just getting washed downstream and getting stuck in the structure, so it needs to be maintained, regardless of these other issues.
'Cause you can tell it's that last 20 feet really drops off,
Yeah.
and that's where,
Yeah,
you know, you guys
and you're
are
right,
having a
so
lot of dirt going
if
to
that
the system.
restoration, if that's able to feather it out and improve the grade and make it better, then, again, that'd be good for everybody.
Right.
But at minimum, that needs to be done regardless of your situation.
Good.
Come out sometime this week and, but yeah, restructure the whole thing, probably even lower it a few inches and put a tab or a stub off the side.
Yeah.
But if you lower it, you still have the existing erosion issue that you already had. You know, because if the dirt was all still in the yard, it'd probably be up to the top of that catch basin.
Right. But we're gonna make it right.
Right.
We'll make it right, so water flows over the top into it, so.
Good.
Yeah, and I certainly agree, as you're doing it, prepare it so that it can be tied into it if so choose.
Yeah, 'cause if I have to dig, 15 inches alongside of it, that's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But I take it you're gonna cap that.
Yeah, we'll just sub it out and put that on.
Wonderful.
Perfect, okay.
Right, and then if you did put something in, yeah, you're,
Right.
digging down 18 inches, whatever,
Right.
establishing tile, throwing some clean rock on it, and hopefully then whatever is kinda lingering on the surface, you give it a chance to get out of there.
Right.
Sure, I'll
Okay.
get in contact with you.
Okay.
The fence is pretty close there, I know.
Yep.
So, I'll take a couple sections off.
Just try to give me a couple more days notice.
Absolutely.
All right, good, thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Kyle, thanks,
Yep.
Dave. Thanks for coming in.
Yep.
I don't think there's any action warranted, we'll just follow up as staff, and it's maintenance work, so we should get it done.
And I think what
Agree.
Kyle's looking to do is probably relatively inexpensive as far as, what needs to happen.
Okay, good. All right, thank you. Dave, and then you have 6.1C, on the MinDOT.
Dave, I thought maybe you could make a comment or two about this
Sure,
standard
so
document.
MinDOT, enters into agreements with municipalities where they have the highways going through, and an example of where these agreements are needed is when we did the roundabout project. We have this cooperative agreement with MinDOT, and there's certain things that we rely on MinDOT to do for us as far as material testing goes, and some of the oversight that they help us out with the construction administration. And for them, this agreement that they have with the municipalities, general agreement, then they're able to capture basically from an accounting standpoint, the costs associated with that and tie it to a project, tie it to a city, so that they can get reimbursed back into their budget for the money. I probably know enough to be dangerous on this, but what happened, like with the roundabout where we didn't have this number established, what happens is when they get reimbursed for that money, it goes into the general fund, and so they wanna be able to account for it and keep that money within their budget, as I understand it. And Rick, I don't know if you had one of those, an agreement in the sewer or not.
We did.
Yeah. So it's pretty straightforward. It really doesn't obligate the city to do much other than going forward when you have cooperative efforts with them. That, agreement is already set up to be able to account for the work.
Which we may in the future, in the next few years, if they're doing
Yeah,
projects. So this isn't anything we need to act on right away. I mean,
There is a form of resolution.
Yep.
Could be an example where some work would be discovered through the particular fiscal year here, and we have this in place, so, that's what the gist of it from my standpoint.
Yeah, I think
is
it,
to make sure the paperwork's in order. If nothing happens, nothing happens.
okay.
but maintenance items that might come up, things like that, where you, again, you're working with MinDOT, they wanna have this agreement established ahead of time.
It's certainly a big contract for what you're describing. I mean, what,
Yes.
18 pages
Mhm.
to, because they can't manage what account money goes into seems odd to me, but, I mean, it's certainly something I don't mind looking into. And if we have further discussions or discuss at a work session,
Yeah, I mean, I guess if it would be helpful to have a better description of it, I think we could put something together for you, again. It got on the agenda, generally it's considered pretty routine, but if you need a better description than I can describe tonight, we can certainly get that for you.
if there's no urgency, I'm not prepared to take action on it.
There's a
Right.
date deadline in here, but
Is this new? I mean, is this a new process?
looks like it's a
been-
5-year agreement.
Right, and I don't know that we had one before, or
But
not.
MinDOT's been doing this with
Yes,
other cities for years, I'm assuming.
We've
Seems
got
odd,
time.
it seems odd MinDOT wouldn't have approached us at the roundabout project when this came to light here.
they did, and, I don't recall what happened to the agreement, but they did ask us for one.
Does anyone recall any of that?
I think that was before my time, when you guys were approving this.
Yeah, I think it was.
Again, I know it became an issue when we were trying to do testing work.
I'd like to get a little more information on it, a little more clarification.
Well, why don't we just put it on?
Yeah, and I apologize for not having a better description for you tonight, but.
Why don't, Dave, you prepare some additional written comments
Sure.
on it, and then, we'll put it back on the agenda for the next meeting.
And then I
Sounds good.
suppose, is this something that needs to go to the attorney to review? Or is it just real standard and we think we can read through these and understand it ourselves?
I would say that's up to you. I think in the past, Luann would have probably provided that to the city attorney to review, but I don't know if that's necessary or not.
Although I'd be willing to bet MDOT's not into negotiating.
No, I think it's,
That's the reality of it, they're probably not gonna be agreeable to some changes.
And there's a good chance we may not need any changes
Right.
to it. It's fairly generic and straightforward. Any other comments that others have? I mean,
What happens if we don't sign it? We don't agree to it?
Well,
it potentially would just hold up something that you needed from MinDOT.
right.
Any other thoughts? Should we table this until they can get stuff put together? Stuff?
Yeah, that's fine, I mean, I tried to read through it, I mean, it's pretty mind-numbing.
I thought the same, but.
Part of me thought about not sending you the actual contract, but then the resolution would be kind of understating the relationship, so.
All right, let's get a little more information on it, and we'll take a look at the next council.
Yeah, that's not a problem, and again, from our initial standpoint, Rick had asked me about it, and I know just from, dealing with other cities that generally it's a pretty standard agreement, and so I didn't give it a whole lot of thought, but I can,
And
we'll get you some more information.
Without any projects on the radar, it doesn't seem time sensitive, so. Okay, anything else for the city attorney or city engineer? Sticking with that.
All right.
All right. All right, Rick, we'll move to, city administrator, please.
Right, really, it's amazing what type of technology issues have come up the first 4 or 5 weeks of my tenure here, and, think there's any relationship between the two, but, it became evident pretty quickly that, we really needed some third-party expertise to come in and help us, and I think my memo, I stated that we had a particular party that was helping us from time to time on our, computer issues, but that party, for various reasons, hasn't been non-responsive, and I think what prompted such an urgent reaction on our part was that, Janelle discovered that the utility billing system was not operable, and we had some billings coming up fairly quickly, so it's one thing if it's my computer, it's another thing if your utility billing or fund accounting or whatever's got issues, so, we did visit with people in the community, and Techstar, Mr. Bunn, name kept getting recommended to us in terms of somebody that can do the job, so we did contact Paul. We got his group in fairly quickly to just deal with the utility billing issue, and then in terms of having someone available to work routinely on computer issues, from a financial perspective, it's definitely more cost-effective to have an ongoing contract with the firm. And, we've looked at the numbers, and that does seem to make sense to go that particular direction. So, I'm recommending that we at least look at a proposal to have Techstar IT Solutions, provide contractual services for managed service proposals, managed service of our computer hardware and network. And then one of the days that Paul and his staff were coming over was the first or second day of the telephone system not working in this building. And I called Paul early in the morning and I said, I know we're gonna talk today about computer issues, but we're gonna probably spend more time talking about phone systems, because our initial meeting with Paul, we did talk extensively about the communication services that you also provide. So here again, because of an emergency, it kind of prompted the dialogue or the conversation to be expedited. So, we have a couple proposals before you tonight. One is to manage our computer equipment, hardware, system. I think currently the backup plan issue has as much to do with that, that's currently all in-house anyway, right now. And for the dollars involved on that particular issue, it's probably a very inexpensive way to protect the system. And then the phone system, we talked about an internet-based phone system, which would be in your wheelhouse, so to speak, and you would have the expertise to help us on that. So none of these, expenditures were necessarily budgeted, but as I tried to address in my memo, the minute you make some of these changes, you're gonna see some reduced costs. You also have existing line items that are in play here. The numbers may not match up at the end of the year, but, these are something that I believe you just need to deal with sooner than later. As it stands at this moment, I think Frontier has a recording that says our number's been disconnected. What was that? I have no idea. I think that they accomplished only... 2.5 hours ago. Yeah, everything that we talked to them about, the only thing they really accomplished was, well, we'll get that on the airwaves, that the number's been disconnected. So it's like a circus dealing with...
What's wrong with the phone?
The phone? Yeah, and
If you
I was
don't
gonna
mind
have
taking the podium, that'd be great.
Paul take the podium, and you can speak to the technical.
So my name's Paul Bunn with Techstar Solutions, and so what happened actually that day is the phone system went dead. There's no power to any of the phones. So what we did is we brought out an internet phone, and we used our phone system at our office, and we just took the Frontier number and had them forward it to a temporary number, which now rings here. So what he just said is that it's kind of outside of our control because Frontier controls your number today. But if you go with an internet-based phone system through us, then the number will actually be controlled by Techstar. You still own it, but gets transferred over, and then it all is cloud-based. So there's a lot of benefits to that. I don't know how experienced or knowledgeable you guys are about phones, but the beauty of it is it's it can be deployed to any internet connection. So you know, you just, if you're at the fire station or you need it over at Public Works or something like that, it can just be another extension. If, Janelle's home working one day because she's snowed in, she could technically have a phone sitting at her desk at home and, answer calls for the city. So, it's super flexible that way. I think if I could speak briefly about the technology aspect of it, if you look at your computers and just say that from a basic maintenance standpoint, there's probably not the value in having us partner with you on a contract on a month-to-month basis. We're so much more than that. So when we come out, we're looking at the technology as a whole. We're saying where are the weaknesses, where are the strengths, what should you be looking at. And so some of the things that need to be considered is if you move away from Frontier for a phone or for internet, because we've talked to Carver County when I was out here last week. We have a proposal for moving to fiber. I know, I recognize some of you guys from being here 2-3 years ago when we did the router and also the wireless access points. We put those in. And I think if we move in any of those directions where we move away from Frontier, we have to consider the email. Everything that's tied to that account for the city, Mayor MN, and I think City Admin. And there's probably some more. We haven't been able to log in yet to see which accounts are tied to that, but so it's a journey, it's a process, but our recommendation at that point is to say, you know, let's look at the technology as a whole and probably recommend going to Office 365 or something like that to get hosted email. The list goes on. I mean, we currently work with a total of 6 cities, including the work that we've done with you in the past, and so we're used to working with council. What's that?
Who are those cities?
We have City of Norwood, City of Cologne, Arlington, New Germany, yourself. Who am I missing? Yeah, I think I said City of Norwood, right? Yeah.
So are we under any contract or anything with Frontier right now? Or do we? No, I don't think so.
Just Frontier just does our phones and email, right?
And internet.
And internet.
They provide like a free line to the fire station or the water plant, right, internet to.
I don't think it's free,
Nothing's free.
but we just, I know when we installed it at the waste, or at the water plant, I don't know, it might be a 2-year agreement thing that we got going on. We just kinda redid this not too long ago, so.
Was the phone failure part of the system within the city, or is it a Frontier issue, or whose issue was it then?
Well, I think the box itself is, something happened with it, it's just not getting power anymore.
Is that and that's our box?
Your box, yeah. And I honestly don't know who owns the box, if it's Frontier or if it's being leased to you, or I'm not really sure how it's set up.
So for computer issues, who did you guys call before? Just from Manchester, Dutchman? So is this a person that would just kinda ad hoc things and come in when there was an issue?
Well, I think Jerry Thomas is good friends with him, and he works over at the school, if I remember right.
Okay, yeah,
Yep.
'cause I think Jerry did a lot of our stuff
Mhm.
when he was.
Jerry's trying to get us into the school right now because he wants to retire, so it's like, I don't wanna do it anymore, so.
So you don't have really somebody in, when there's problems, it's not a number you can just call, and then you're dead in the water. It just lucked out that he was coming in for a overlay of like, what could he provide? Exactly. And then it was like, hey, but can you help us with these problems?
Yeah, I mean, we have important systems, our SCADA systems are important, make sure their firewall is protected, you know, that you don't want some random guy just coming and working on it for us.
We actually recommend in a lot of cases to take SCADA off of the internet.
Oh, yeah.
It's just it's the best form of protection,
It is.
so.
So are these kind of 2 separate issues? I mean, we have the IT side of things, and we have the phone. Do they go hand in hand? I mean, is the maintenance, the managed service proposal, maintenance kind of from both of them together?
So basically, the managed services proposal is just kind of take your existing network, so you're talking about the internet connections that are coming in. We kind of manage all of that and work with your vendors to make sure it's working properly and whatever needs to be done there. But because the phone system is actually VoIP, it's running over the data network. So it runs over the same network through the same firewalls, all that kind of stuff. So what we do is we go in there and we set up what's called quality of service to kind of say, you know what, if somebody's downloading a huge video, let's make sure that your voice traffic's getting priority so that we're not, you know, dropping voice connections and things like that. So it's very interconnected. it just keeps getting more and more, so.
Are we completely severing Frontier then, or do we have a different internet service provider, or?
So I was talking to Rick just before the meeting, and we have a proposal from Carver County to switch over. It comes out to $50 per site to do it. Here's my opinion, is that, it's fiber. It's where we should be going at some point, whether we do it today or 2 years down the road, doesn't really matter. I think that the price is probably gonna be it's probably gonna be pretty comparable to what you're paying with Frontier. So what I would like to see happen sooner rather than later is take the fire station and City Hall, which are both already connected with fiber, and get those lit up and eliminate Frontier at those two locations. However, before we do that, we have to make sure that we get all the email moved over to a different service and things like that.
Now the time to look at our website and then just get that updated and have somebody manage that better, and just get a .gov, email address that's off the website, and probably, instead of the Frontier .gov.
That'd definitely be my recommendation. So we can manage all of the domain side, because we can say, point the email to this section, point the website to this section. It's called DNS records. We can certainly help you with that side of it. If you have somebody that you already work with on the website, great. If you don't, I can make a couple recommendations as well. So
Could you walk through the proposals?
Sure.
Some of this stuff, I'm a little confused, we got a couple different ones now, some later ones came in today.
Sure.
I'm not sure what the monthly costs are and what.
Sure.
I'm a little confused if you.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely didn't mean to make it too detailed to confuse you, but do you want to look at the managed services proposal?
Yes.
Okay. So if we go through that, what we do is we actually came out and went through every single location that you have for the city and basically did an inventory of all the equipment that's there. And so based on that equipment, the first section you'll see is the network management. That's really the firewalls, all the services that get done around that. So protecting it, any switches. I don't mean to get too techy, but it's all the infrastructure pieces in your environment that everybody uses. So switches, firewalls, access points, the wireless, that kind of thing. So a lot of those have to be updated regularly. They get patches, they get firmware updates. That gets done. The next section is really the NAS. So basically what we do is we used to do a billing process where we just charge for computers, and that's it. As you know, in the last 5 years, everything has changed so much with you have Chromebooks, you have people on their mobile phones, you have all these different devices, so it's changed how we support businesses going forward. So we've kind of broken that down to printers, copiers. Each one of them is line item. Where I would say that the most valuable thing for you guys to consider would be towards page 4, I believe. Page 4. It talks about a subtotal for the City Hall. It's $483. That's kind of like the base agreement to this whole thing. So then if you wanted to add the fire station, there would be those monthly costs right below that.
I don't see page.
Did you get the updated? We emailed it over earlier. I don't know if you printed that, the updated one.
It's not in this packet, so it's in the email.
That's not separate.
Today.
Oh, it's on the update.
Okay.
Okay, so these are monthly.
Correct.
Monthly costs.
Correct. Yep.
And these costs are just for City Hall.
Yeah, so the first one, $483, would be just strictly for City Hall. That's all computers, network infrastructure, everything.
Okay, so that's everything. You give us the computers.
Well, no, we don't give the computers. We just maintain and keep everything up and running.
Okay.
So if you need emergency support or even if there's help desk issues, to take it a step further, what I alluded to earlier is that we actually meet on a regular basis with you guys to kind of look at where's the technology heading for the city. We currently meet with our schools. We have 4 schools that we do work for on a weekly basis. It really depends on what the need is, but it's to sit down and just say, where are we headed? Do we have security policies in place? Are we using password 123 for our logins to get in? Some of that training and education goes a long ways. We talked about password management tools with Janelle. So there's just a lot of things that we can kind of bring to the table in that respect.
The 483 is just City Hall. Then there'd be
Correct.
additional costs for.
Yep, it's optional for the fire station or for the.
Okay.
Yep, and those are. I can actually show this to you if you want.
several amended proposals came in.
Yeah. It was a work in progress, and we had to kinda move fast with this, so.
So in this one here, it says there's $2,892 for the fire department. What are you doing for that $2,892 for the fire department?
I don't have the proposal in front of me now, so.
That is the, I prepared a memo
Okay,
initially last week to go in the packet to kind of summarize the costs as well as I could.
okay,
And then I revised it based on your revision.
gotcha.
I
Is that
probably
back-
sent you something 2 hours ago, but you may not have taken it down yet.
I did see an email, to be honest, and I didn't check it,
Yeah.
so.
I mean,
Yeah,
that
this
includes
is
the internet service and phone service and all that that's out there, or, I mean, it seems like a lot of, I mean, they have one computer out there that's probably 15 years old. and,
That number doesn't sound right, actually.
Okay.
Um,
So Mayor, I believe on the packet, it should show like Public Works. Does it show that breakdown there?
Yeah.
Fire department's on,
So you have at fire station $241, public works is $301.
okay. So Public Works is taking all the buildings, I think there's 3 buildings that you guys went to, Kyle?
Oh,
Is that correct?
Yeah.
So it's taking all 3 of those buildings for the
Water,
301.
wastewater,
There's firewalls there, there's some computers, yeah.
yeah, here, take this.
Yeah.
Yeah, $241 a month times 12 would come up with that number, but remember how to do it.
Well, you're looking at annual operating costs.
It seems like a lot of money for what the fire department's doing, I think.
Sure.
I mean, they've got an old fax machine, copier, scanner, and they got a computer, I don't know if they use it, but that seems like they certainly have to jump in.
That's why I put it in as optional.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, Public Works, I mean, you need internet access and everything out there, so no problem with that.
I think the rationale behind it was that we know the most pressing issue right now is the phone systems for this particular building, followed by, right up there is our computer needs, more so in this building than any other place. My approach to this probably was, I wanted to at least start the dialogue with everyone and all the other departments, but that's why we're treating them as optional. And that kind of changed from even last Thursday or so, in terms of how we might layer, incrementally bring some of this stuff in.
Our initial conversation was just around City Hall, so we started talking about, well, what it would look like if we started maintaining the rest of the network as well. So just
That
kind of that's
was the
options.
expanded proposal came up
Right.
last Tuesday,
Correct.
more so than the original one had to do with everything at City Hall.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of out of scope for other stuff, correct? Or-
Correct.
okay.
Yeah, phones are
So
separate.
Completely separate
Correct.
items, okay.
Yep.
So one, obviously, we do have an urgency on the phone system, I think that's our urgent.
I would agree. Sure.
I'd like to look more into this maintenance stuff and maybe get some annual, I don't know what kind of monthly costs we have right now and how that's gonna compare, we need to get some of those numbers.
We could certainly give you referrals to the other cities that we work with if you'd like to, just see how that works for them.
That'd be great
like that.
too.
Sure. I would say that it's a pretty, it's pretty common that you would partner with a company to do this type of work. Yeah. At what level is up to you, but,
Oh, yeah, we need to
Yeah.
have people.
yeah.
Nice.
Well, and like I said earlier, I think the biggest value too is not in the fact that we can just fix your computer in a hurry. Just kind of look at it from a planning standpoint and make sure that you're moving in the right direction. So now we're a true partner at that point, working with you on a monthly basis.
Yeah, we need a little more than what to find out what our monthly costs are now.
Sure.
What's proposed for that?
Sure.
What are those costs?
So, if you look at the phone proposal, the first page talks about a SIP trunk. The SIP trunk is basically your phone line.
Okay, hold on one second.
Oh, you don't have it? Okay.
That's different than the managed service proposal.
Correct.
Right.
I'm getting there. Go ahead, I just give us a question.
It was answered. I was gonna ask if this included the phones, and I guess it doesn't. It's
Correct.
just maintenance.
Yep,
Okay, so this is a 3CX phone system?
correct.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm with you now.
Okay. So I'll walk you through that really quickly. So the first monthly recurring is the SIP trunk. Think of the SIP trunk as your phone line. It's just an internet phone line. So that's kind of what that is. It's the service that comes around that. If we have to upgrade the plan, it'd go from $69 a month to $109 a month. We don't anticipate that being the case, but if we do need to go that route, it'd be $40 more. Then if you go down further, we start talking about the hosting and the support. So basically this phone system is sitting in the cloud. It is a Windows server that's running. It's hosted in a data center with rack space. And essentially what happens is firewalls are opened up on it so that the phones can communicate with it, the server in the cloud. Doesn't care where the phone is connecting from. We do have a VFax in there as well. It sounded like the city was still using faxing. I've convinced a lot of them to eliminate it, but some people still need it. So if you can get by without faxing and just scan the email, then that would eliminate that cost. There's an initial setup and installation of $733.33. It's our labor to get things set up and trained and have the call routing working the way you'd like. We have phones.
System hardware is a one-time charge, I assume.
Correct, yes. So if you look at the last page, it shows the project total is $1218. And then if you look to the left of that, do you not have that quote?
I got 1236.
So, yeah.
Oh, 1218 subtotal, okay.
Yep.
I'm with you, I'm sorry.
And then if you look to the left of that, it's $222 a month, monthly. On the far left side of that total.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
I had a couple questions.
Sure.
So the toll-free calling, we pay 3.5 cents a minute?
So, let me look at the plan here.
Because a lot of places are toll-free, and I know sometimes we can sit on hold for quite a long time, so.
Yeah. How much calling do you think you do with the toll-free?
So if we call a toll-free number, we get charged?
On this plan you do. If you upgrade to the next plan, you don't. It's the base plan. It doesn't include toll-free.
And then
So when I say that, all long distance is included. So there's really no long distance anymore. It's just toll-free, the 888s and 800 numbers.
I thought those were free.
Why is that?
That doesn't,
It's just how the SIP trunks work. It's a different technology. So I think that they have to pay for it, so they pass it on to us. It's free to the consumer, but
And then my next question is, so in the event of an emergency, we lose power, we lose internet, we lose our phone.
good question. So typically what people do, especially if it's in a city, so the city of Arlington's going through this process as well. They have an EOC. I don't know if you guys have an EOC here. Emergency Center. So my comment on that is that it's even more robust than what you have currently, because what we'll do is we'll put a phone line as a backup. So we'd probably tell you to keep one phone line through the county or through Frontier,
So an
just as a
actual
backup.
hardline phone line.
Yep, or it could be a cell phone, so just a failover line. But the beauty of it is that because it is a internet-based phone, you could actually take it to another operations center, hook your phones up to the internet, and you're back up and running quicker. You don't have to worry about moving your lines. So,
So the net cost savings then come here from
although you have rollover lines and things like that now that you wouldn't pay for. Yeah. And I will say too, like I will say that your alarms, so your wastewater treatment alarms and things like that, should stay. We'll leave those alone. You don't want those going through the system.
Fire departments have landline defense as well as mobile. It provides, I thought, savings in all cases. $31 a month to call it, $137 water treatment, $79, so
So on the last page of this proposal,
Both of the numbers are rounded.
correct. The last page of the proposal, we kind of gave you an example of what the fire station might look like if you switched over to that, or Public Works. If you have questions, we can kind of iron through the details and find out what you're looking for. Although I don't know that you have the time, you might not want to take the time to do a special session or anything, but.
I think it's important enough issue that I think
Phone's working now. We gotta hammer through some.
No, I think you have to move forward on something here.
I think we have to do something.
I mean, I think if nothing, you've been given options here, and I think if nothing else, just focus on City Hall, or the phone system. We continue to work with the other departments and see what their particular needs are, and, is there advantages to going to that? And also, having somebody like Paul and his firm just simply on call is gonna result in, more expenditures than having the contract. So, my recommendation is that you, tonight, just simply focus on City Hall, come back to the other, at a later time. That's what you want to do.
So if we do that, we're gonna cancel the Frontier phone service at City Hall, keep the internet service for the time being, so you have the line, for the cloud, for the phone system.
I think we would look fairly quickly at Kirby County.
Are you knowledgeable on speaking on the fire topic?
I know probably, about as much as he knows about the MnDOT service agreement, so I can talk on a very high level, so.
There was a lot of taxpayer money that went into that fiber optic ring, and we all just talk about fiber to the cities, and they provide all this fast speed, make it so much easier for city government. What's it gonna cost us to hook into that fiber ring?
Yeah, so currently, fiber is connected to the fire hall as well as, City Hall. And so currently, there's no, build-out cost for that, it's just $50 a month per site. To get on.
We're paying that, we're not paying that now.
No, because you're with Frontier currently. Yep. And then, we actually got a proposal from Carver County that, Rick has to get fiber to the other facilities if you want it. But
What's the monthly cost for internet or fire station now?
well, if you go fiber, their base package is $50 a month. Yep. I believe that's, I wanna say it's like a 20 down and 10 up or something. So, phenomenally better.
You have time to look at other facilities. Don't know if you have time
I just wanna caution
As
though
an
that,
interim administrator, it makes it pretty interesting, because you always have a nervous breakdown. I can close my door and I don't even get voicemail. I don't have to call anybody.
Well, I certainly think we have to do something with the phone system. Don't you know? Did we not talk about this last summer? Didn't we approve to do some upgrades on the phone system? Wasn't there some motion that we made last, I wanna say it was last fall, what was that?
Well, wasn't, but I know.
And then we just decided to fix what we had. It couldn't be fixed and we had to replace them.
Box that's dead right now, we fixed like a year ago, because they fixed it.
Okay.
And now it's,
And what has Frontier said now about everything going on?
Frontier is the issue. Our system that we have, we're not,
Only up to about 2.
up to that point. and
Up to
then
that box?
Yeah, that thing on the wall that's like the
Outdated,
line.
obsolete.
Yeah, it is, and then we still have that big bill.
Yeah, there's, thing about the AUM left, we got a bill from somebody who's gonna attempt to fix all of $600 bill, nothing fixed.
For the phone system, gentlemen,
So right now, our monthly, for
This
city,
thing was really starting to nickel and dime us yet, and it's, I don't know. We've had a number of people just, try calling all day, but I couldn't believe it's gonna be frustrating for the citizens too.
so for what's the monthly for the phone for City Hall? We're looking at $72 plus.
So you have if you're comparing a phone line to what this is, it's totally, you're not comparing phone lines to phone lines. You're comparing a phone system, plus you're getting all the support of us. We'd never charge you for anything related to phones with that fee. I would challenge you to actually, you could go out and look at some residential systems and do it yourself, maybe find it cheaper. But we looked at this and we felt like it was a great price. So, certainly welcome to shop it.
Is that per phone, $72 per phone?
No, so what happens with this is that you can, depending on the phone system that you purchase, we put in a four-line system. So one SIP trunk or one line basically can handle 25 calls on it at the same time. So what restricts it is the phone system itself. It's a 4-line, and it's just a software key. You can upgrade that.
I understand this is an upgrade system, I understand, I get that.
Yep.
For me, I'm trying to figure out what we're paying monthly now, what we pay from a budget standpoint, and where the
Gotcha.
difference.
What's the difference?
That's what I'm
not
trying
sure.
to-
What's your?
That's what I'm trying to figure out for
Sure.
here at City Hall, and it's $72 a month. It looks plus another, is it?
It's $222
$222.
per month.
Per
Yep.
month.
Yep.
And right
Your
now,
current
For here.
Frontier Communications bill for City Hall is $231.
Okay,
Which is
So-
including internet, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So this would be slightly more for your phones then.
okay,
than you
okay,
pay now.
but close, we're not thousands.
Not that far.
Okay,
No.
that's what I'm thinking.
Sure.
So you're
Yeah.
gonna be within a few
50 to
dollars,
70
you're gonna
bucks
have
more
a
maybe.
much more enhanced system.
And then we're looking at an initial install of $733.33.
Well, so the total initial would be with the phones themselves would be that 1,200.
Oh, 1218.40.
Correct.
With the
Yeah,
phones.
with the
Okay.
phones. Yes. Yep.
And then 200 some months for kind of Washington's we're paying now, right now, Frontier.
Yeah, you could pay 3,000 to 5,000 easy for if you bought another box like what you have. So this gives you something that keeps getting up there.
That helps,
Sure.
that's
Yeah.
what I needed. And now we're gonna be on minutes, we allowed so many minutes, is that what we?
It's kind of how the VoIP systems work is based on minutes. Like I was saying, if you went up to 5,000 minutes in and 5,000 minutes out, that bumps the cost up $40 a month.
Okay. We'll see how, and we can just fluctuate that.
Yeah.
I mean, see what the first month is.
I'll be honest, I'm a little loose with that, so I don't track it really, really closely. But
And how do we track it? Is there a meter on there, do we just?
the phone system can run reports.
Okay.
Yep.
So we can kind of keep an eye on what we go over. Then is it a per charge, per minute charge after that?
We'll have a conversation. We're not gonna charge nickel and dime you guys on that. If we go way over, then we're gonna have a conversation, say, we need to upgrade the plan at that point.
Seems
Yeah.
like shut, that's 2,000 minutes.
It's 2 in and 2 out, so you're
Yeah.
really getting 4. It's the base plan that we have.
And toll free, we get charged for that. Correct. Anything we call, so if we call a toll free number.
Correct.
We can call that on our personal cell phone.
Sure.
And not have charge, correct?
Do we own this equipment then?
The phones, yes. Yep, the cloud is gonna be, it's just software as a service.
I have toll-free in the office setting.
I look back from the November 28th meeting, there was approval of purchase of a new phone system, and I wrote next to it, another quote needed. Because,
Is there an amount?
the quote to replace the system with Frontier, because that's what we were gonna do, was $3,446. But I don't think, we didn't act on it, because I wouldn't have written, usually I write what, the vote.
Did you get another one?
And I don't think, and I've looked through February, and I don't think I've seen a new quote.
Gotcha.
just for some history.
Good, no, perfect, that's awesome. That's good to know that
That's
about.
why I print off
Good to
these,
know that
so I
about
know where to go.
Frontier. Thank you. I personally, I think it's a fine system to go with. Fine with the monthly charge, I'm fine with the install, it's half of what we got quoted last year, which who knows what that quote would be today. And I'd like to resolve the phone stuff and then talk about some of the other maintenance stuff, maybe the work session, get some other information and work some out, get the all agreement.
So just resolving the piece of puzzle is doable.
Yes. So the only question I would have is, would you wanna just do City Hall for now, and we'll look at possibly reviewing fire department, public works and those locations later? That's the current pain point, so.
And they have phones now that aren't working either, is that correct? I have a phone line, but okay. Right.
I think to keep things, just separate all of
Fire,
them.
yeah.
They have a really old phone hanging on the wall.
But they have a phone, but no one's down there making calls, I'm assuming. Or, I mean,
City Hall is the priority for now.
yeah. I would agree, I think we do City Hall now and then look at those other, I think we gotta do them. I mean, if there's a phone, then there's a need for phone, we're gonna have to upgrade it, but.
We have internet phone at my work, and I love it because I'm remoting between two offices actually. So I just there's an app that I have, and I can have it forward to my cell phone, and I just control it all there. So right now, if anyone calls my office, it rings actually my cell phone because I'm not at my desk. Or you can have it if you don't pick up, it will ring to your cell. I don't know if you guys have.
So this is a Windows app as well, so at my desk, I don't even have a regular phone. It's just a soft phone on my computer. The worst part about the soft phone is you have to wake up your computer and log in before you answer the call. So there's challenges with that too, but if you're sitting in front of the computer all day, it works great.
But we're gonna get the actual phone.
Correct, yeah. We have the flexibility to, Janelle could install the soft phone app at her house and just hook up. Not that she wants to work from home, but.
And we'll still keep our number.
Correct.
That's not good.
So that's gonna be the biggest challenge, that's the longest part of the process, so it takes 2 to 3 weeks typically to port a number. And that's the losing carrier is usually one that holds that process up. So the sooner we can start that process, the better. In the meantime, we can continue to work through, the current issues. The tough part that we're having right now is that, we worked fine for a period of time, and all of a sudden, Frontier shuts something down. Maybe they're waiting for that $2,800 bill to get paid. I don't know. So, it's another party. Okay, good.
And I know when we switched our home phone from Frontier to internet, it was like 10 days. And we kept our same phone number and everything, but yeah, Frontier was just 10 days.
I think this is the way to go. Any other questions on the phone systems? If not, I'll look for a motion to approve, the 3CX phone system 2017 proposal from Techstar IT Solutions for City Hall.
What is that motion? Do you want to make the motion? I'll make the motion.
Any further discussion?
My only concern,
If we start adding like the fire station and wastewater treatment plant, what kind of costs are we looking at? I mean, are those just extensions onto the same system? Or
Yes,
what do we
there's,
need to do?
go back to the last page, right?
I don't think I ever seen.
This is moving past the previous slide. On the last page of the latest one, it actually has some, at the top.
What is it? I mean, is it?
The example of fire station would be $38 a month. And then there's one phone for like public works, $8 a month plus the cost of getting the phone.
Okay.
So we're just adding another line.
Can we get like a spreadsheet or something where it's like Frontier, here's what we're paying for every location, here's what we will be paying, so that we can look at it apples to apples and then just saying, well, I think it's $50 here and.
I think the ones going forward, we can't the other
Yeah.
buildings that
Yeah.
can and should.
So we can just compare it. Oh, it is, okay, I didn't.
Yeah, it's like one phone line, just have one phone.
And we're paying
At the fire station. So we can do the fire station and public works for an additional
Additional cost.
$46 a month. And then the equipment. I think we should just do them all.
I think we should just do that.
He doesn't even have a phone at public works.
I don't hear my phone number.
So if we maintain one hardwired line within the city somewhere, can that be patched to the system to work for everywhere? Or? Then we can just have one hard line that runs here.
Okay, any other discussion? We have a motion and a second to approve this for City Hall, so we'll move forward on that, and then if we wish to make another motion to just add the other two right now, we'll do that separately. Just so we don't have to amend this one. Any further discussion on the phone system for City Hall?
Does this just come out of general fund then, or where does it come out of?
Probably the building
It'll be,
upgrades.
The building
well,
maintenance.
on City Hall, it'll, you have a line item already for telephone services. And, there's probably, there's a capital outlay budget for this building. And so it refers to as community center, so I don't know if that means part of the City Hall operation too. As I say in my memo, I really haven't had a chance to delve into the budget and find all of the different accounts.
I suspect she carried that over if we knew
Yeah.
we were gonna be spending $3,500.
You're already spending the money on the telephone system, so to speak, and that would be the $231 versus the dollars we talked about here. So normally it's gonna come out of operations. The capital cost, in my opinion, is low enough, you almost wanna treat that as an operating supply probably. It's not even equipment or capital, in my opinion. And when in doubt, I looked at how much cash you have in the bank.
We also get the rent from Kids Company every month, and that's
Yeah.
like $2,600 a month that we get in rent every month that I don't think we've ever utilized. It's just kind of, I think, pooling into the community center fund for upgrades or things like that. And I don't think the wear and tear or the additional purchases to toilet paper,
Right.
really eats into that number, and they also were splitting the cleaning cost fees. So I definitely think that some of these upgrades, we can use some of that, like it
I would
can come
agree.
from.
I think it's there, and I got to imagine that it was budgeted for a phone system, and it's already been factored in. I'm guessing we knew that amount last fall, so it'll be there.
Is our current internet speed gonna support all the voice over IP phone calls and everything that we're need to be doing, or do we need to be looking at making the switch to the fiber now?
Well, so the biggest concern is we're switching to fiber fast, so the feature first. But because it's a washout, that's our primary, we put it in use mode. We can actually set what's called long distance
What kind of internet speed do we have here? What service do we have? We had 12 megs.
But do you even get 12 megs that you pay for? Like, I don't think I pay more than what I
So
actually
you're not
end
concerned
up.
about bandwidth?
I'm not really, it's the upload speed, but it's the download speed.
Mhm.
With one or two calls, we're kind of getting past
All right, any further discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll look at, someone like to make a motion to not wait, let's just upgrade the fire station and add one to Public Works. Would seem appropriate, for these is gonna be sufficient in there, correct? Yeah.
For all three locations, just two locations.
Yeah, just as a public way.
Just, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so one in the public works, and then in the fire station.
I'll make it.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion?
So there's an auto dialer line out of the wastewater treatment plant, right? Just one hard line out of there. Are we able to then get rid of as soon as your phone system up and going, we can get rid of the hard line Frontier at the fire station?
Yeah, we have dialer systems, so they should stay on the hard line, so we should get rid of that.
Well, and so we need to maintain two hard lines then one is a backup for if the wipe goes down. And then you gotta keep the alarm system only on one line.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So thank you, I appreciate it. As soon as we can get going on this. Do we have anything, Rick, do we have any message on Facebook page letting people know that the phone system's intervened?
About, well, initially something that they were down, and then I put something on there that they were working. So they can call us. It's just recently that we found out from people stopping in at the counter that they called and the number said it was disconnected. And it seems to be later in the afternoon. So it is kind of strange.
Maybe
Like
just a
I've
quick
called
message
it and
again.
it's gone to voicemail just to double check it. It's an ongoing, I mean, communication, but, you know, they've been fantastic. I can get a hold of them and they get right back.
Good, I appreciate
So,
that. Good. Yeah, it's maybe just another message that we're afraid we have problems, email or something. Perfect, and then we'll discuss further some of the IT maintenance stuff on an ongoing, here shortly, so we can continue with that discussion.
Depending on how we set it.
Okay.
You have a copy of the bill?
Oh, okay. Good. Okay.
Yeah, I equated to
Right. Okay, I appreciate that. Okay, perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll talk tomorrow.
Okay. 6.2B. The recommendation to declare Monday, May 3rd as a management holiday. That is, Tuesday is the holiday, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we're looking, hopefully close Monday. Thoughts on that? I don't have a problem with it. We're covered, we posted in enough time, let people know, and, I don't foresee that as being an issue.
What's a management holiday?
Basically, I'm using that term because management has decided to just provide an additional holiday or time off. So it can vary. It can be, some years you may not have any, others you might. In this particular case, we're not saying it's, they're compensated as a holiday. We're just simply taking the time off. And then using leave if they want to be compensated that day, so. Does that answer your question?
Yep.
I'm fine with it. We throw something up as soon as we can on the website and let people know we close both days.
Facebook.
Assuming it's
On the door.
Our employees want to do that, that they're gonna take a holiday that day, or
Yeah.
and I did ask Lois in the past what has been done. She said typically they've been busy, so.
I think historically you do something Christmas Eve too.
And the day after
We have
Thanksgiving and.
the Friday after Thanksgiving, we
Yeah.
I can't remember what your holiday schedule says, but, the action you're contemplating here really isn't even, it's not listed in the personnel policy as a
So
routine.
back open on the 5th though?
Yes.
All right.
another time, I was like, okay, again, I gotta try this again, because I think the kids and parents really liked the Easter event that we had here, and I know I felt like we were missing out on it this year. So that's just kind of my reason for starting it. I have no other reason besides just being a citizen and thinking it would really help out the community. I've had 2 meetings so far, and I have had 2 people sign up. And so, well, I know, and we need 20 people to sign up to at least start it. And we had some other people show up, and I've had some people sign up. But like I said, I have no other motivation other than to help the city. And I've posted on Facebook, I put posters up, I've tried talking to people, I got 2 people that are like super gung-ho to help me out, but I am running out of steam, and I am just getting really exhausted by it, and I don't know what else to do. So I guess I also did reach out to Mayor Rising, asking if I could set up a booth at the festival. I thought maybe if I could have one outside by the cars and maybe one inside with the crafts, and people could just come and talk to us. But then they said they would like some money, which would be fine, $25, but we don't even have a club set up, so I don't have money to provide. So that's not gonna be an option for us. Maybe I can set up a booth outside the community festival, I don't know. Maybe I can talk to Mayor Blucher and they can help me out. Maybe you guys have some suggestions, but I am just hitting roadblocks all over the place. Yeah, I know, I agree. I suppose I could talk to them. We're trying to get a sponsor club, and we're hoping it'd be like Livonia or Watertown, since we have such huge following, and they're just doing so many wonderful things for the community. That's still in the works of getting somebody to like sponsor us. Heck, I'd be fine using $25 on my own personal checkbook, but I don't feel like I should have to do that, you know? So I guess the thing with the Mayor Rising thing was, once that we can get this club established, we can help. We can be volunteers, we can be like a partner with them, we can help out. And so, I don't know what to do anymore. The people that I am working with are absolutely wonderful. They've set up their own clubs, they're great. They wanna come start knocking on people's doors, if they're ready for that, and, oh my gosh, who's that, the 2 people that are, there's a couple of people that are helping, yeah, there's like 4 or 5 people that are helping me from the Lions Club, the different districts, and they're coming from different clubs, and they're coming here every time I have a meeting, and they're trying to talk to people, but I'm not really getting it here. You said there's a fee, like, I haven't been able to make it. I'm interested in it, but I don't know anything in my plate, but I think it's something that I haven't been able to make any meetings for the time to have it work, whether it's sporting events or, something else going on that conflicted that is from your meeting. But, like, you said minimal fee, I don't really need to pay an annual fee, like, is it $100? Is it about $60? Right, so like, you know, for me, that was a deterrent, because once I pay a fee, I don't know what the fee is, I don't know what the fee would be with it. You know, but I think by the time you come to the meeting, it's like, well, $60, well, that's nothing, I don't mind doing it. So I don't know if we can, you know. So I mean, I can maybe try to post it, you know,
Yeah,
this is what we're thinking the annual membership cost would be.
Yeah. Like, what is it, I mean, I guess I don't even know what a Lions Club is.
Right.
Who posted it? I didn't see, I just didn't see it, but I think.
I know I said I needed people that had, ability to pay.
Yeah.
Well, and
So, but we could, you know, like, I could talk to my neighbors, if that was something, or the Lions Club, and like, if you said some of me, I have no problem, like, helping.
I don't know if it's specifically you're asking.
no, and this is,
Personally helping you.
Yeah, this is why I didn't come to you in the beginning, because, like, I asked the guides that are helping me, and they're like, no, it doesn't, it doesn't have to go through city council, it doesn't have to go through any specific, avenue or anything like that. I just want people who understand this community. I mean, I guess that we've lived here for 12 years, and I know we've tried other organizations, and we haven't gotten them up and running, and I don't know what else to do, and I don't expect any of you guys personally to join or anything like that. I'm just looking for, like, some help to spread the word, or if you guys have any suggestions or ideas.
It's like Carver and NYA, they share a Lions Club. I mean, doesn't it make sense to maybe join with Watertowns and have the Watertown Mayor Lions Club where you're able to draw from more people? I think the problem with Mayor is that we're a real young community, people with young families that are going to baseball and football and basketball and veteran community that works in the cities, and I think we have to talk about that come election time about who are we gonna run for elected spots, because everybody's just so busy doing other things that, there just isn't an interest. When it comes to a lot of groups, that's a problem. Getting people involved. I mean, we're lucky we have the people that show up to the city council meetings and are informed, or the person at this point that shows up.
Yeah.
So it's, I feel your pain. I get it. I mean, it's trying to get people involved is really hard. It's a fantastic thing.
They have those funds that they talked about. I was at one meeting, I didn't
Yeah.
the second one.
And some literature,
Oh, yeah.
They might give you the 25 bucks. The reason I can speak for the Rising Community Festival, the reason that they do that is because they charge everybody else. So you can't say, oh, no, you don't have to pay, you do, because then you hear it from every other, person, or organization. That's why.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Honestly, Northern might work. They did for kids company this summer, one of the parents literally went and took flyers and put it in paper boxes, and they got 5 additional kids.
Oh, okay.
Because they did that in their neighborhood. Because people, even though we're posting things, everybody gets so much information bombarded at them that they don't listen. I know Zion, we get the little door hangers, for, the VBS, but we also, they have like the Easter egg hunts and the other things. And that's the only reason I know about them, and then I go to them because they're free. But that's how I found out about them, is, it might take a little extra, but a little simple flyer that you can hang on someone's door, let people know.
At the first meeting, we talked about going to Germany, and we also talked about talking to some of the businesses, because the businesses can pay their membership dues, they don't necessarily need to go to the meeting.
Right.
You get your 20 people, but even if you do that, my thought is, if you're starting an organization and you only have 3 or 4 people that are gonna come to a meeting, it's just so hard. We'll be even more frustrated than what you already are, so. But I was just wondering if you ended up reaching out to New Germany, and if you reached out to the businesses like we talked about at the first meeting.
Yeah, we have done some of that, but I'm just getting very thin when it comes to that, so I haven't done as much as I would like to, and I know 2 other people who are helping me, and, we're all busy, unfortunately. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay, yeah, and we want it to be on like a mayor area Lions Club, so it would include New Germany, and it would include, anybody out in the country and things like that. Anybody from any town can come and join. We just want to get them to. Yeah, so I'll contact them, and thank you, and if you guys could share or like it if you see it on Facebook, I know you have them. That'd be helpful. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Okay, Ken Little was gonna talk about who to contact. About that? Did we get a presentation?
He wanted to be last on the agenda.
Did he send over a presentation? No. I'm sure he'll contact us. We got a business.
I guess he does come annually.
Yeah. I'll do a job of it, no problem.
Yeah, another city to go to.
Any other business? Any public report? I did attend the fire department, meeting on Monday. Normal business that they went through, they discussed if they have any unknown medical at the fire station, now they have, needed to dispatch 2 trucks. If it's unknown, they can make sure that their equipment.
They don't know what the problem
Yeah,
is?
they don't know what it is. Yeah. I don't even know how often that is, but that's something to discuss. They walked me through, Bob walked me through a little bit of the Active 911 system they have down in this building system. They just contact their cell phones and they can decide if they're gonna show up or not, and they have basic maps.
We can see where everybody is.
Connected to GPS, so you know if they're coming in, if they're on their way or not, so if it means waiting another 30 seconds, you can get a full truck, there's no wait.
Get there?
No, yeah, it's not, there's a screen.
It's a big screen.
There's a
right
big
up there.
screen and computer, and it will show you where the
Big
medical is,
monitor,
it shows
yeah.
you all the firemen that are driving to
And they can click if they're gonna be there or not, and it's all, and then it has the map, a big map, so the area also. Big monitor, very, very.
They were for a while, then they have a phone, so.
I feel like I didn't see that when you were, maybe.
I think somebody donated it to you.
No, it was there, it's in there when we took it to her. It's back in the corner by, by Rescue 11. The rescue truck, like, it's like right in the first corner by that side door.
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn.